Last week on the Al Nicoletti Show. Logan Fulmer. Logan, the man, the myth, the legend.
A lot of the discipline for me is understanding the laws and understanding what could be a claim or could be a problem. 2/3 of things need to be solved out of the courtroom so that the last part, the financial model, works. The goal is to present something to an underwriter that says, I feel like the odds of a claim happening here are very low.
We pick up a probate. One of the first things that has been hitting my mind over the last couple of years is like, where's the title work?
So that's what you have to do. You have to get to the very basics. I can now pick up $20,000 extra in equity that no one else realizes because I knew to have a 4-minute conversation with the underwriter. Code compliance liens, those municipal liens can't be foreclosed on by the municipality. They just accrue. Go build a real relationship with your title escrow officer.
You have to know who you're dealing with to figure out what your margins are later.
The worst I've done so far had 65 heirs. We spent $200,000. We collected 65 deeds. We paid $50,000 of the taxes, so we were on it for $250,000. We ran it back through title. We found a couple of judgment liens we had to deal with. After that, we sold it for $1,250,000.
Whoa, great story. I thought that was fantastic. What happens when we get that property that's just sitting there, it's dilapidated, but we can't find the heirs?
Usually we can talk to the neighbor and say, who lived here, Johnny and Jenny? Great. Once you start to collect these little pieces of information, you have to write it all down. Because what you're doing is you're solving a mystery. You have to start out with interviews. You have to find any data that you can. Usually the land records are a great place, but if you continue to dig and use your resources, you'll find them.
I love it, man. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely, Al. We'll see you next time.
That was a lot of fun last week with Logan. And if you missed any of that episode, you got to go back on the YouTube channel or Spotify and iTunes and check out that episode. There was so much in 1 hour that Logan was able to talk about in the weird and strange title world and being able to solve some of these crazy things. Like he talked about 65 heirs coming across that deal. He's in Texas, but you come across any deal with 65 heirs, you really have to know how to solve something like that. Or whether it's like trustees that are missing or the trust is missing or breaks in the chain of title. Logan gave a masterclass in 1 hour on this stuff. So you missed any of it, definitely go and check it out. And you can find all the amazing content on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and the Al Nicoletti Show is on YouTube. And you can, of course, find all the other content, the micro that's constantly dropping on Facebook under Al Nicoletti and the Instagram under @Attorney Nicoletti. It's another night on the Al Nicoletti Show. I see everybody out there that's already watching. Christine, I love it. Christine, it was so awesome seeing you at the conference this past weekend. It's like such a blur. This whole like last 4 weeks, I was telling Mike, I was like, I feel it's crazy. Like I'm here again in the show, and it's like the last 4 weeks have been just, they blew by. It was a blast, and I got to see so many amazing people on the journey. Robert Rodriguez, I love it. We haven't seen you in a while, man. I love it. I love it. So everybody, you're going to love the guest tonight. I know you all know who it is because we've been pushing the promos and the stories out there, and he's a rock star when it comes to lead generation, and I absolutely love it. So make sure you get your pens, your pad, everything ready, and we are going to have a whole masterclass on lead generation with Liam Benson, and it is going to be fire. So I hope you all are ready. So let's rock this thing. Hey, everybody. My name is Al Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida, and welcome to the Al Nicoletti Show, where I bring on real estate super investors, rising rock stars, movers and shakers, and leaders of clubs in their community that educate, entertain, and inspire all things on Florida real estate and all the amazing other areas that we can cover in real estate. Whether it's Airbnbs, commercial land, or now lead generation, CRM, or talking about things with wild title and things that we have to be able to overcome when we get these deals, whatever it is, on how you can take your company to the next level. On my show today, I got the man, Liam Benson. When it comes to lead generation, this is the guy. When he's all about lead generation. How do you use Google PPC? How do you use the things that we use in our social media world to really leverage your real estate business and scale it? And Liam's going to break that down. He's going to talk all about the foundations to building a scalable business, who, not how, and all the fundamentals that are going to be really key in your success for real estate. So I'm super excited. I know you all are out there. I know Teresa's ready. She's ready to take notes. How you doing, Teresa? Without further ado, let's welcome him to the show, Liam Benson. Liam, love seeing you, man.
What's going on, baby? How are you doing, Al?
Oh man, I'm doing awesome. It's like paradise in Florida, so I can't complain.
I've got the exact opposite going on. In fact, this is kind of a miracle that we have this thing going on tonight. So, because I live in a completely different climate to you, I'm in Minnesota. And Minnesota, it has like an actual blizzard going on, like a winter storm warning. We had to do a whole bunch of stuff. And so I didn't have access to get to my office. We got a bunch of snow last night, and it's going to be snowing all through the night until tomorrow at like noon. So it was a hectic time. It's not, I wouldn't call it paradise up here, but we got a nice snow day, got to hang out inside, and I made it anyways. Look at that.
That's crazy. No, you were telling me about this. Like, you're in Minnesota, it's a blizzard over there. And you know what? The stream is flawless for you right now. You're looking
Beautiful.
great. You're ready to roll. We couldn't ask for anything better. Liam, I'm happy you're here. Tell everybody, how did you even get into real estate? What was that road like for you?
Well, I'll give you like the 60-second elevator pitch. I might go on longer than 60 seconds. We'll see how good I can do here. So I got started in like the sales world as a banker, right? So a banker it's a sales role, right? You're trying to help people open up accounts, do loans, all that sort of stuff, but you're trying to push people to do it with you. And that's where I found out I was decent at sales, but I really did not like all the red tape in banking. There's a really slow progression path, and I didn't go to college. For me to get to the income level that I wanted to get to, I had to get into college and go and get some kind of I had to get a bachelor's in something and likely get a master's and put in 15 years at the bank before I can get into the multi six-figure range. And I just didn't really see that being, what was for me. That wasn't the way that I wanted to go. So I left banking. I got my real estate license and switched over to doing that. And that's where really it all started from there. I joined this brokerage that was really, really gracious. And what they did is they provided free leads for all the agents in the brokerage. So they give each agent probably 10, 15 inbound buyer leads per day. And I was really good at setting appointments off of them, and I was getting a lot of clients off of them. From there, I realized I didn't like being an agent so much. I liked setting the appointments. I liked doing that aspect of it. I hated driving around to all these houses. I hated showing them. I hated having to deal with the clients and how emotional they were on it. And during our weekly team meetings, this epiphany sort of came to me where all of the other agents in the team had really, really bad numbers. Like we're taking a look at our sheets, and the attempt rate is like 5%. So these agents are only talking to 5% or even trying to talk to 5% of the leads coming to them. Contact rate 1% or lower. So they're not getting in contact with any of their leads. And my numbers were just off the charts. And so I just talked to each of the agents, and I was like, hey, why don't you just give me your leads? I'll convert them into appointments. You go on them. You keep the client. Just give me a referral fee for what I work for you. Okay, cool. We don't want to work these anyways. And that was really the big switch for me, where I started to find a lot of success in doing that for my team, and then eventually other teams in the real estate space. And then, long story short, I guess we can get into that a little bit later. But anyways, now I'm in a similar sort of model where we're helping people get deals, but it's a much better, more leveraged way than doing a whole bunch of cold calling, which is what I was doing in that model before. And so that's how I got into real estate. That was the timeline right there.
Wow. And it seems like you really enjoy talking to the sellers, being able to really, talk to them, negotiate with them, warm them up. And then that's the conversion to them saying, hey, yes, I really want to do something here and sell the property, or get maybe the realtor over there to list the property. Seems like you've really found a niche there. Was that something that kind of carried over into more of today?
Well, it's carried over in some senses, in the investment space, the transition as far as going from being a realtor and having those conversations of trying to get listed on the MLS and then working them into investment transactions. It's a really, really simple shift. Unfortunately, nowadays, I don't get to be on the phone with sellers as much as possible, or as much as I'd like to. And the reason for that is it's just as not much of a leveraged task. It's not the best use of my time nowadays. I do still have a transactional business here in Minnesota called Minnesota House Partners. So we do fix and flips, we do wholesales, we do a lot of different transaction types. So we still do have that going on. But unfortunately, I don't get to be on the phone as much as I used to. I do have a show called The Closer Show, where we call leads and lock them up live for probably do once a week or so. So that's where I get to have my outlet and have some fun talking to leads.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I can see that you probably have fun doing that. Awesome stuff. So one thing that's really interesting because you have your podcast, Whole Scaling. We'll make sure we put the QR code up for that. And Liam loves talking about what it takes to really scale your real estate business, right? You get all these leads and you can keep going through them, maybe converting them, but how do you level up and get to the next level with a lot of these things? So we're going to talk about setting the foundation to building a scalable business and what that's like, either building out systems, building out infrastructure. Liam, lead us into this, and how do you build that foundation that leads to the success of a scalable business?
So when you're looking at it, here's something that I think a lot of people in the audience probably are finding themselves in. They're getting one deal, maybe two deals under contract, and they're going to go and work those. They're going to get paid out from those. And then the next month they find that all of a sudden their pipeline's totally dry. They've got nothing coming to them. And then it's going to be a 1 month, 2 month, 3 months from now. Then they're going to start having a pipeline again. They're going to give their 1-2 contracts, and then it's a lull. So it goes in this wave of up. You're going to be up here getting your deals done, and then down, then up, then down. And it's not a consistent deal flow coming through. That's where most people tend to get stuck in the business. And really what I've taken is I'm all about finding ways to create this really strong foundation that will create a high degree of consistency, to where instead of doing 1 or 2 deals every 3 months or so, you get to doing 1 to 2 deals every month, then 3 to 5 deals a month, then 5 to 10, then 10 to 15, and continually scaling upon that and building this really strong. I guess the way that I describe it is, the peak of your pyramid is determined by the size of your foundation. If you have a small foundation, your pyramid isn't going to go very tall. If you have a really huge foundation, then your pyramid is going to go really high in the sky. And that's where you want to be. The higher it goes, the more money you make.
Yeah, and for a lot of people that are just starting out or getting a lot of these leads, but they don't have a VA team or they don't have assistants, but they want to start growing to that level, what are some of those foundational things that are going to be key, maybe infrastructure wise, or is it building out the CRMs? Is it starting to hire VAs? Is it I feel like it's going to get to the point of like more organization, because if somebody gave me 1,000 probate leads, first of all, I'm excited. But the second thing I'm concerned about is being able to handle all those leads, not even just myself, but if I have 1 assistant or 2 assistants, you got to start building that infrastructure and having forward thinking that you need to get that set up right away. So what are some of those foundational things that you're doing to do the scaling part?
So this is where I'm going to be nerding out here. This is my favorite thing to talk about.
Nerd out
in any business, there's 3 things that you need to focus on. There's 3 main systems. Call these our macro systems, our big ones. You're going to have marketing, you're going to have sales, and you're going to have fulfillment. Those are the 3 things. Now, in real estate, the fulfillment is a little bit different. I would exchange fulfillment for exit. And this is for any real estate business. So if you're wholesaling, you're going to have your marketing, you're going to have your sales, and your exit is going to be the assignment of the contract. If it's an ovation, you're going to be getting it on the MLS. If it's a listing, you're going to be getting it on the MLS. So then it's the exact same. There's going to be marketing, sales, and exit. So those are your macro processes. And you have to create just a big ideological thought, like, what am I doing to run this process? What am I doing to run this one and this one? And then once you have those, this is where you can start to build your foundation. So when we're talking about building your business, you have to start at the start. You can't start at the finish line. And this is where actually a lot of people go wrong. What they do is they're going to start by learning a bunch of different exit strategies. They're going to learn how to do a wholesale. They're going to learn how to do a sub 2. They're going to learn some novation, some other creative tools. They're going to get a big referral network, all this stuff, thinking, hey, this is going to help me get more deals. Unfortunately, it's not the case. If your pipeline is dry, it's going to stay dry. All of a sudden, having these exit strategies isn't going to, open everything up. You got to start at the beginning. You have to start in marketing. So when we're looking at marketing, the macro process, this is going to be what the strategy we're doing to get leads are. So there's 2 main types of marketing in the real estate space. There's going to be your outbound marketing, and there's going to be your inbound marketing. So outbound is where you're reaching out to people and seeing if they want to sell their house. Inbound marketing is where you're going to have these different hooks in the water where people can come to you and see if they want to, and ask if you can buy their house. So in any instance, inbound leads are always going to be significantly higher quality because they have intent baked in. You're not trying to pull it out of them. You're not trying to fish it out of them. They've come with that baked in. However, inbound leads, they have a higher cost restriction to getting started in them, because you have to be paying to either get your ads out in the space or to get your site optimized or to get your mailers out there, whatever your inbound method is. There's extra costs associated with it, where if you're doing outbound marketing, and that now you're leveraged not by capital, but by the amount of time you can put into it. Because you can put your time into making more dials, sending more texts, knocking on more doors. So you have to understand at which point are you in your business? What are you more hard out for? Is your time more valuable to you, or is your money more valuable to you? And once you make that decision, that will help you determine which of the methods is going to be the best way for you to go to begin scaling. A lot of people, if you guys are brand new to the space, maybe you don't have a full-time job, or maybe you do, but you don't have a whole bunch of expendable cash, you don't have a whole bunch of money on the side, for you, you've got to start in outbound marketing. You have to get one of these processes in place. You have to choose what you want to do. And for me, I'm biased towards cold calling. I like it a lot better than any of the other methods. Mass SMS is getting tougher and tougher with regulations, and it's kind of a cop-out. You're not really building a skill set, and most people are doing it out of fear of talking on the phones. Cold calling, its delivery rates are still high, conversion rates are still high, and you're building a true skill set and being able to talk to people. So I'm biased towards cold calling. So beginners, I'd recommend diving into cold calling. From there, what you do is you just put together a really simple process. Start at your end goal, finding a lead, and then you just got to work backwards to the front. And you just draw it out, create a repeatable process, and it could be the simplest thing ever. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then you do it. You run that process through. And then you go back to the beginning and you run the process again and again. And then you're going to have a new idea. You're going to add it to the process. And you're going to figure out something that doesn't work in it. Maybe you thought it was going to work. It doesn't. You're going to cut that out. And you constantly iterate on it. And then all of a sudden you find that, hey, I've got this really well-refined process that I, put in 6, 7, 8 months into, and now this thing's performing like crazy.
So let's start there. Inbound, outbound, right?
Yeah.
And I know you like the outbound for new ones because, less money, but more time. And the inbound, I could see that being more like the PPC. You're putting more money into it, but less time. So what's that? How do you find that balance really between the two, where you're not overspending, but you're also not spending time doing the kind of stuff like you're being on the phone all the time? I mean, at a certain point, you can't be on the phone all the time.
Mm-hmm. So this is when we're talking about scaling, right? If we are going to figure out how we're going to be getting consistency in the business, again, it starts in the marketing. You need consistent lead flow through and through. So eventually it gets to a point where you're doing as many dials as you possibly can. You can't do more dials. So now you need to do one of two things. You can either hire people to do calling for you, and so that's where you're leveraging capital to leverage other people's time, or this is where you start to make the change into doing inbound. Now you're going to be spending money to get leads directly into your business. And I recommend doing that rather than scaling via outbound, because when you're looking at the amount of processes you need to build out to really scale an outbound operation, there's a lot more there because you have to manage people. And with people, there's always going to be more problems. But versus if you're just going to start doing inbound methods, like running an ad set, all you've got to do is pay to get that ad set up once and pay a team to run the ads for you. Or you can do it yourself. I wouldn't recommend it just because now you're learning an entirely new skill set, which the best business owners aren't experts in everything. They're really good at connecting the dots between experts who are good at what they do. They keep people who are smarter around them. And so then scaling wise, that's where you make that decision, where you're putting as much effort into your outbound as possible. You're getting a consistent degree of income coming in from that. And now you want to start freeing up your time. You don't want to be spending as much time on the phones. You want to get better leads coming in. And you really want to start being able to, put like the nitrous into your engine, get that big boost. And then that way you can really take off.
Let's go one step up on the inbound marketing. How to fine tune the inbound marketing. So not on a basic level, but more on an intermediate advanced level of really ramping up the inbound so that you're getting more of the leads that are like, oh, we do want to sell. You don't have to reach out to us. What is it, using better terms or keywords, or of course it's getting with a company that understands how to use that kind of stuff, right? You don't want to learn that on your own unless you really want to put the time into it. But what seems to be really sticking? Because if you put wholesaling or real estate or buy, sell in a Google PPC, I mean, that's a wide range of stuff. It seems like it's like really narrowing the focus down to certain words and terms. What would that look like?
So that's a broad question there. And the way that I kind of tackle something like that is there's a lot. So in the realm of inbound, right? There's a lot of different ways that we're displaying our messaging to people. So for Google PPC specifically, there's going to be two main ad types that we're looking at. There's going to be discovery, and then there's going to be search. Discovery, that's where if you're watching a YouTube video and like one of the little boxes pops up below, like, hey, check this out. Discovery. So there's all these different spots where people can discover, and then those are going to be either text-based or image-based, and getting people to click on those. For the actual search, what you want to be doing is I would get less clicks that are higher intent rather than trying to get a whole bunch of clicks that are low intent. So I for all of our campaigns, we're going to be bidding on much more competitive things that like we're not going to be bidding on people searching for Zillow, or we're not going to be bidding on people searching for Open Door. We're not going to be bidding on that. We're going to be bidding on things that are like sell my house fast, sell my house for cash offer investors in the area, home buyers in this area, because that way there's usually going to be a higher intent behind those. So that's what I would look like, is definitely pinpointing it down to what you want your target avatar to look like. But realistically, in any business, no matter how good your ad set is, there's going to be fluff coming in. There's going to be people already listed in the MLS. There's going to be fake clicks coming through. There's going to be people just filling it out to fill it out. There's going to be tire kickers. Those people, unfortunately, you just cannot fully filter out. This is where your sales process comes in. So in your outbound, you're not like, let's say you go to batch and you pull this big list. You don't have a list of leads. This is a huge misconception in the industry that it upsets me. You don't have a list of leads. You have a list of prospects. Huge difference. A prospect is somebody you think wants to sell. A lead is somebody that has told you they want to sell. So once you find that there's this lead, that's when it comes to your sales process. You've never heard that before?
No, I haven't actually heard that one before. Yeah, we're just writing that down for micro. What is the difference between a prospect and a lead?
Prospect is somebody you think wants to sell, and a lead is somebody who's told you they want to sell. Because the entire goal for outbound, when you're doing your cold calling, is, hey, are you the owner of the home, right? Am I talking to so-and-so? Am I talking to Al? And then if Al says, yeah, this is him, and my data says that Al's the owner, now I'm going to say, hey, Al, are you interested in selling your home? No? Okay, cool, next, right? I'm not going to waste my time on you at this point. But if you say, yeah, I'm interested in selling, cool, we're moving into the sales process, I'm going to translate to a sales conversation. Cold calling, in a sense, is marketing. Mass SMS, that's marketing. That's not sales. With inbound, people are coming in. Once they're in, because they filled out your site, they're pretty much already, 95% of them are already leads. They want to sell their house. Now it's your sales process's job to weed out the people that are shit and continually follow up with the people that you want to be working with.
Yeah.
And that's how you're going to be achieving your ROI. And if you have a really solid sales process that you've documented, now the idea is that you really don't need a budget per se. What you need a consistent ROI, and you can only have an ROI if you're actually tracking your numbers. You're tracking your attempts, you're tracking your contacts, you're tracking your average cost per lead, your cost per contract, your cost per contract closed. Then you can figure out, okay, I'm spending this much, I'm making this much, and if that ROI is positive, dump as much as you can into your marketing.
So
what do you find a bottleneck?
What have been some of the best ways that you're actually tracking your ROI? I mean, of course, you have all the CRMs out there that we can list down the line, but I'm talking on a more like higher level way, like that you can really sort out the difference between the prospects and the leads, and then really high conversion with these leads. What are some of the ways you're tracking this data?
So let's start on the marketing front. On the you want to have a consolidated numbers within your marketing. So let's say we're doing outbound cold calling. First, what we're doing is, let's say I have this 1,000 record list. When I'm calling through it, I'm going to be tracking my number of contacts. I'm going to be tracking my number of leads, and I'm going to be tracking my dials and my talk time. Those are really the four main ones that I'm going to be looking at right there. So now let's say that out of this 1,000, 100 of them I contacted. And the contact is I talked to the owner. So it's a 10% contact rate. Now, of my contacts, 10% of them are leads. Okay, so out of these 100, 10 of them were leads that want to sell. The other 90 weren't leads, they go in the garbage. Okay, now I'm tracking how long I'm talking to these people on average. And now at the end of the call, all of this is going to be logged. And your dialing software should log this. And if it's not, you just got to manually put these into a spreadsheet. It's imperative. So now we can take a look at this list and say, okay, out of this, 1,000, we had 100 that were contacts, we had 10 leads, and now we can start assigning, like, it took me, an hour to dial through this. Of course, it would take longer, and my time is worth, $100 an hour, so it cost me $100 to dial through this. And for 10 leads, that's $10 cost per lead. So now you can figure out what your leads cost. And then you can say, okay, and it takes 10 leads to get a contract, so now my cost per contract is $100. The one thing that people tend to make the mistake in is they want to have a perfect system before they start tracking their numbers. And that doesn't work very well, because if you try to perfect your system, A, you don't actually know what works yet. You're just kind of going in blind. And B, you're not tracking any numbers because you're waiting for it to be perfect. Imperfect action is always going to be perfect in action. That's the way that I look at it. The other mistake that I see people make when they're trying to track their numbers is they try to automate too much of it. And if you automate too much of it, then sure, you might have good data tracking, but you're not actually looking at it. You're not actually being intentional about what you're looking at. You're not looking at it every day. It's going to where it's meant to go, but unless you have an actual process to sit down and really sift through that, ideally daily. I mean, KPIs tell the tale of the business. You should really have a daily KPI meeting with your team no matter what. That's going to determine if you're going to be successful long term or not.
Wow, a daily KPI meeting. That's pretty cool.
It can just be 15 minutes, have it compiled into a spreadsheet, and just take a look at it and say, all right, contact rates were this, our talk time was this, we had this many offers put out, this many were accepted, take a look at it, because that way you can start to identify the problems. But if you're not actually trying to diagnose them, if you're not actually taking, your body has like a KPI meeting every time you do anything, you stub your toe, there's your KPI meeting, right? You identify there's pain, you figure out how you're going to solve it. Now imagine, right, you have no pain receptors in your body. You don't know when you're injured. That's people who aren't tracking their KPIs. That's the people who aren't going to be doing daily KPI meetings. You got to be checking it, all the time. And if you're really intentional about it, you make it very important to you, that's going to determine your levels of success long term.
Well, a lot of times, think about how many people are working in these businesses in the wholesaling businesses, and it's like, when do you find the time to actually do this meeting, right? And you're talking about 15 minutes, right? Time blocking that kind of meeting every single day to run with the team and the VAs on what's working and tracking the data. It's something I'm even doing in the firm now, like really trying to figure out like what's going on. Are we spending more time on this file? Are we spending more time on this file? And trying to like fine tune what's happening. So tracking each thing as we go is actually going to be is a great advice from Liam right there. Liam, talk about exits, because this is that third component.
Everybody should start with just one. Select your one and stick to it. If you can't be consistent on that one, adding in a bunch of other ones is not going to make you more successful. If anything, adding in more, it's going to add all this extra nuance. It's going to make you less successful. You're probably going to go downhill pretty quick. So your exit is the last thing that you should focus on. So an example in my business, we have really solid lead flow. We have a really excellent sales process. And now what we're doing is we're able to identify that the leads in our pipeline, we're not converting on a lot of them because we don't have all the exits available. So somebody is in a certain situation that maybe a sub 2 would solve. And because we know how to do it, we can solve their problems. Versus in another situation where like they need to go on the market and we didn't have a referral network. Well, this person isn't going on the market. We're not making any money on it. So that's where it makes sense. Okay, let's start to learn these different exit strategies. Let's learn a sub 2. Let's learn a wholesale if you're an agent. Let's learn, let's build a referral network so we can get these agents out there. Then we can expand on our current sales process. And then we can, that's how you're going to start to increase conversions long term. But you got to start on the marketing. So you have a really solid lead flow. Then you have to build a really excellent sales process. So you're converting your leads into contracts. And that's where you're going to then widen out your exit process. If you think of it like a pipe and the water is moving one direction, it doesn't make sense to widen out the back end of the pipe really wide, because it's like, okay, cool, we're never going to have a bottleneck here at the back end of the pipe. No water's getting there anyways because you have a bottleneck up earlier. So you got to widen up from the front to the back.
Can everybody see how Liam could just like talk about this for like 5-6 hours? Like we've only scratched the surface of like all this stuff in the 3-component process. And I tell people all the time, Liam, is how if you're getting into a real estate deal, you also have to think about the exit to it as well. Are you keeping it long term? Are you keeping it short term? Are you going to wholesale it? And I talk about that with people that pick up probate leads, right? What are we going to do with the probate lead? Well, that's your exit strategy. What are you going to do with it after? The marketing's one thing, but you're right. You have to know what you're doing at the back end. A lot of people don't think about that. They're only thinking about the contract in the beginning part. So that's crazy. Also, talk to us about some other things when it comes to lead conversion and lead generation, right? I know you wanted to touch on that depending on the business you're in, but how do you visualize and segment the process of lead generation and conversion?
Oh, I think I might have dove into that a little bit early, but so breaking it down is the goal for your marketing process is to get leads. A lead is somebody who's told you that they want to sell. Now they're in your sales process. Your sales process is to get a contract signed. That's it. Once you get the contract signed, now it's in your exit process. Your exit process is to turn that contract into money. And once you get paid out, you roll it right back into your front end on your marketing. So you just need these 3 towers, right? These 3 machines that you're going to be feeding from one into the other. And once you have these 3 machines up and running, now you have a business. You're no longer doing just a hustle. And you can start to iterate and improve on each of these processes. And you can actually then, because these are the macro processes, how do you start to break down the micro processes inside of them? So for example, in marketing, how are we going to be getting our leads? Once we figured that out, we're doing cold calling per se, then where are we going to be pulling our lists? Where are we going to be skip tracing them? What credit card are we using? Then what dialing software are we putting them into? What's our process for cleaning that data? So how are we calling through? When do we determine when a list is expended? When are we going to put a new list in there? When are we purchasing it? Are we doing it on a weekly basis? Are we doing it when the list is expended and just, I know this recurring? You can start to put these smaller processes together over time. You can start to document them and create your SOPs, your standard operating procedures. Now you can hire people, because if you hire people without SOPs, and this is the point about VAs that I wanted to make, is where most people go wrong, is they hire VAs out of avoidance. They don't want to do the work themselves. They don't want to do the calling themselves. But not only do they not know how to do the work, so they can't actually manage the VAs, but they don't actually have any SOPs for the VAs to go by. So these VAs you're pretty much just hoping that they already know what to do and that they actually know what to do better than you do. But then it's like, okay, would you pay yourself, $5, $6, $7 an hour? Probably not. And you're expecting this person to be better than you? Okay, that's not going to be a good recipe for success. If you want somebody better than you got to pay them a lot. You're supposed to be the best person in your business. You can have somebody else coming in and controlling that, and you're paying them this little. They have no loyalty. They have no skill set. Like, that's just not a good way to scale. So for people doing VAs, you got to have SOPs in place for the VAs to follow. And once you have those, now you can track the numbers that are tied to each SOP. And now you can actually figure out if they're being successful. You can start to diagnose the problems.
Very cool. Anybody that's got VAs out there that are working with them can now figure out they need SOPs in their business, right? Standard operating procedures when they're dealing with it. Liam, let's talk about connectors instead of builders, or connectors and builders. A lot of times in our business, it's not just what we're doing, but it's who we're always connecting with and building relationships with, and how important it is to keep building relationships in our community. And it's about the who, not what or how, but the who in our development to scaling our business. Let's lead into that, because I know that's something you wanted to talk about. What is the big golden nugget when it comes to the who, not how?
I am a very, very strong believer in first principles of business. These first principles are going to determine whatever level of success that you have. One of the most important first principles is this idea of who, not how. A lot of people have this, you know what? I'll tell this story about my dad, actually, because my dad is a perfect example of somebody who's much more how oriented than who oriented. So my dad has been sailing like all of his life. He loves sailboats. It's his passion. Actually, so him and we did a trip where we sailed all the way from Lake Superior down to the Bahamas. Crazy trip. Took 6 months to get there. definitely one of the best experiences of my life, being able to spend that with him. And on boats, things tend to go wrong, things tend to break. And so this was actually just last summer. We had our boat put in the water after winter. We're up here in Minnesota, so the lakes freeze, we can't keep them on. So it was start of the summer, we put our boat in, and we start the engine up to get it over to our slip, and it started overheating immediately. So there was something wrong with it. Whole alarm started going off saying, hey, oil's overheating, there's something wrong, turn it off. So we stopped. I think we'd made it to our slip actually, and we started to go and take a look. And we only had like 2 days there. We came up on a Friday. We had to leave by Saturday night, and it's like a 6-hour drive to get up there from our house, and I guess from my dad's house. And there was a lot to do. We have to do a bunch of cleaning. There's a never-ending amount of tasks once you put your boat in. So my dad, he opens up the engine, and neither of us know shit about engines. Like, we could probably figure it out if you give us enough time, but that's not our forte. That's not our skill set. He really, really wanted to try to figure this out. And even more so, he wanted me to try to figure this out. So we were down there messing with this thing for hours. We're covered in grease. It's really, really warm up there, and we're inside of this engine bay working on this thing, and it's a mess. And I don't think we're making any progress at all. Every probably 20, 30 minutes or so, I complain to my dad, like, okay, what the dock has a mechanic there who we can probably bring over here. And my dad's like, he's going to charge us $200. Like, I don't want to pay. Like, come on. Like, we know this is probably not that big of an issue. We'll figure it out. And then an hour doing it turned to 2 to 3 to 4. And it was like 8 hours of working on this thing. We'd spent the entire day there doing that. We didn't have that much time. So finally, by the end, I was like, Dad, I fuck $200. I will pay for this myself. I will go. I'm done with this. I'm over it. Let's go. I'm going to go get him. So I just went out and got him. And my dad, I guess, had kind of given up at that point too. Go and get this guy, bring him back to the boat. He climbs down, takes a look at it. And I swear to God, in 30 seconds, he figured out the issue. There was this pipe, or this little like tube that was meant to go up like this. It had like turned, it's like a curved pipe, and it was down like this. And so water was getting stuck inside of it. And so it was like empty air pockets with, no. It's meant to go down. It was up. And so water couldn't get through it properly. That was it. He just turned it down. Perfect. And he was like, cool. You don't have to pay me for it. Just give me a beer. All right. That was it. So that's the idea of who, not how. We could have got this guy and saved us 8 hours of our time and not had to go through this whole headache of getting this thing fixed. That's perfectly applicable to business. In business, you have to be focused on what's going to move the needle. So a lot of people, they just get this idea of, hey, I'm going to save money if I try and learn how to do this, but they don't actually value their time. And their time is their most valuable resource. So when I'm scaling my business, I'm not running the ads myself. I'm going to have experts do it for me. I'm not going to learn how to do this. I'm going to have experts do it for me. And that way we can begin to connect these different resources and connect these things to build the tools inside of our business. And us as business owners have to be focused on just connecting the dots, building the bridges between these, and managing them actively so that it runs very smoothly through and throughout.
Yeah, I agree with you. If you're doing deals or you're doing anything in real estate, the first thing you have to think about is you do not have to do everything. It's starting to build the people that are around you that will help get you there, and you get there together. But building that team slowly by surely. I mean, you're going to figure out who they are, right? Title company, the realtor that's going to list the property. You name all the different pieces. You have to do that. And what Liam's talking about is putting that team together and making the connection that helps the scaling. Sounds right?
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
There's resources and there's assets and resources already in the marketplace that's available for you to pick up. Don't go and try and reinvent the wheel and build everything yourself. Go and take what's available out there, because the people who are doing it well, they're going to have businesses set up for every part of the business that's where they're making their money. And so what you can do is go and leverage. They've got all the SOPs built in. They have expertise. They have better knowledge on it. It's all they do. Plug into their stuff and pay them a fee for it, rather than having to spend weeks or months building something that's going to be a tenth as effective as theirs.
So let's talk about it in the sense of Liam Benson. who have been some of the instrumental pieces and connectors that have helped scale your business?
Let me think of who's probably had the biggest impact.
Whether it's lead gen or I mean, that's your whole team, but or CRM or title company, like what's that puzzle piece look like for you?
I would say as of recently, it's our SEO guy, for sure. Our SEO guy. We made the mistake of trying to do it ourselves. We had some people on our team that were they knew about SEO, they knew how to do it, but they weren't specifically experts in it, or it wasn't exactly what their role was. But we just decided to patch it over and say, hey, you guys are marketers, you guys know how to do this. Why don't we just have you guys run this, right? And just kind of expand this into your plate. We didn't get the results we wanted. You're complaining about it. We're trying to figure out what's going wrong, why we're not getting the results we want. How can we fix this? How can we improve this? Finally, we go and we hire somebody who's just like an expert on SEO specifically inside of our space for the things we want to do. Within like a week, the results were immediate and noticeable across everything, all of the different initiatives that we wanted to really expand upon with our SEO. The improvement was massive. So that's what's really moved the needle for us recently, was that right there, where we didn't even stick by our principles and what we did because we thought we had people that were good enough, and it just wasn't.
SEO. So
search engine optimization.
Yeah, but I mean different than like Google PPC.
Yeah, sure.
So what are they focusing on more in your business than like a Google PPC lead? Like, are they focusing on doing like more of the articles? Are they revamping the website constantly? Like what have been some of the tactics there?
So in our business, iSpeedToLead, so iSpeedToLead.com, that business is a marketplace where anybody can come and pick up inbound PPC leads. We've already foot the bill to generate those. Or I shouldn't say inbound PPC leads, but inbound leads. So in order to generate these leads, we've got a lot of hooks in the water to try and generate as many as possible. And one of those avenues is an SEO or multiple SEO resources. So here's the difference between the two. PPC, you're going to get immediate results, and it's much more scalable because Google will always accept more money from you. So you can go and pay them more and more. They'll display your ads to more and more people. Therefore, you're going to get more and more leads as long as you have a good conversion funnel that you're pushing these leads to. So that's what that looks like. Now, SEO is similar to PPC in which you're going to be finding people who are going to be searching for these key terms. But the difference is that SEO is organically ranked, and you have to optimize your website consistently. If you think of like the website, if you think of just, the internet as this web of strings attached to each other, Google will rank your website better for a bunch of different reasons. But, one of them is going to be making sure that your website is attached by a bunch of different websites. There's other websites linking to yours. Your website links out to a bunch of others. And so, writing blogs and articles and having all these things and having people link to your blogs and all this stuff and attaching you to the web takes a real skill to do that well. So and SEO is it's a really effective method. The problem is that people just don't have the capital to really pay somebody to do it well. In SEO, it's an asset that you have to build up over time, and it's something that can perform consistently. But it usually takes, I would say, $10,000 or $20,000 with a really good expert to get a well-ranking SEO site in any market in the U.S. Within the real estate space. But once you have one, it can perform consistently for a long time.
Yeah, I heard it takes like 5 years. Somebody told me that it takes like 5 years to like really sink in. Have you heard that?
That's true and not true. The longer and more consistent you're doing, the better and better it's going to rank. You can definitely get it in shorter periods of time than in that 5 years. You can get stuff to rank well in 6 to 12 months. But the more, if you're doing it well consistently, the longer, then of course there's just going to be more out there. So the 5 years, that's a little bit of a stretch, honestly. You've seen websites that have gone and ranked well and then fallen off the face of the map in that period of time. Yeah. But definitely it's a consistent thing. Definitely at least 6 months plus. Yeah.
Well, Liam, tell us about what the iSpeedToLead does, right? iSpeedToLead. What does the company really focus on? Lead generation, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So Christine brought up a great question. We'll talk about that. what types of leads does iSpeedToLead cover?
So we cover motivated sellers who want to sell their home. That's it. We have all of our hooks that are out in the internet, and all these people are coming to us saying they want to sell their house. Then we have our internal team reach out to each person and say, hey, you're actually interested in selling. Everything you submitted to us is true. Once we verify it, we put it on the site and we let people buy them one by one. And the solution, or the problem that this was aiming to solve, is that the barrier of entry to inbound leads used to be astronomically high, where if you want to really be successful in PPC, let's say for a nationwide campaign, the minimum I would recommend starting with is $3,000 a month in budget. It's just, real estate is just an expensive area to get started in, no matter what. If you're going to be doing local targeted markets, like you just want to, do Atlanta, or you just want to do like Phoenix, so these higher price point markets, the minimum I would start with is $5,000 a month. Realistically, probably closer to $7,000. Most people don't have that kind of money. They especially if they don't have a high performing business. So the barrier of entry to getting these leads in your business was super high. So what we did is we thought, okay, we've got the money to spend on the ads. Why don't we just go and generate all these leads, put them on a platform like Amazon, so that way anybody can come on and browse them, and they can buy them just one at a time. That way, if they have a much lower budget, they can still start to get these really high quality inbound leads into their business. That's what it aims to solve. And for Christine's question that I see, do you also provide leads for commercial real estate agents? At this point, we don't have anything that's specifically commercial. No, it's something that we're looking to move into. We do just have a couple of initiatives that we're focusing down on right now. It's mostly going to be focused on single family residential and multifamily properties that are direct to seller.
Cool. There's your answer right there. Yeah, I could see you guys getting into commercial. I mean, commercial seems to be really hot right now. Because of you're seeing all the leads out there, and maybe you're probably seeing more leads come up in different markets, what have been some of the hot markets or maybe cooler markets that you've been seeing right now with what's happening?
I mean, every market's cooling off from what it was, 8, 10, 12 months ago. If you're looking at the number of flips per market, they're just down across the board. So it's you got to be pinpointing and finding better and better deals. That means following up with your leads longer term. But the thing this is something that I get asked quite a lot is, hey, like what markets are really performing right now? If there's people who live there, the market is performing. If it's growing in population, if it's a city, it's performing. The markets you probably want to stay out of are the really rural markets, the ones where there's not a whole lot of people living there. The way that you should think about it is investors are a certain percentage, right? Let's just say 2% of the entire population. I'm sure it's probably lower, but let's just say that 2% of the population. If there's 1 million people in a city versus 1,000 people in the city, you're looking at a huge scale of magnitude difference in the number of investors that are in each market. And so let's say, you've got this 1,000 population and there's only 2% of the people, the investors, maybe none of them are buying right now. Who knows? Versus if there's 1 million people in the city, there's going to be a lot more people who are willing to buy those deals. So I would definitely still focus in markets that are growing in population. And the thing is like, there's no magic market where you're going to be able to get these deals that are just way fatter than everywhere else. When you're looking at like California, for example, the margins and spreads on those deals are a lot larger than, let's say, Alabama. But the difference is those deals are a lot more expensive to get. When you're looking at the marketing cost and the cost per contract, they're a lot higher there. Versus in Alabama, it's going to be a lower cost per contract, but it's going to be a lower spread too. The number that you're really looking at is your ROI, my return on investment, or technically ROAS, your return on ad spend. That's really consistent across pretty much all markets in the US as far as we've seen.
Yeah, it depends on what market you're in. That's going to depend on the cost, right? Like you said,
Exactly.
California's going to be higher. Florida's probably high. New York's probably high. But then you go to like Kansas or Arkansas, it's probably lower, but the spreads are going to be lower.
Exactly. Yeah. If there were some magic market, there are people with billions of data points that would figure that out really quick. There's when you're looking at the big venture capital backed companies, they definitely have teams that's all they do, are just trying to find out where they're going to get a little bit better margin there, and
cool.
then it's going to even out pretty quick.
Yeah. So let's just make sure everybody knows where to find your stuff. iSpeedToLead. If you're interested in leads, where can they find that, Liam?
Just go to iSpeedToLead.com. If you look it up, I think we're actually running a promotion right now where after you sign up, just book a call with one of our team members and you'll get 3 leads for, I want to say, like 70% off.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good. I mean, just to start off right now. And make sure you scan the QR code for Liam's podcast, Whole Scaling. Tell us a little bit about that.
So somebody who I'm a huge fan of is this guy, Alex Hormozy. He's one of my favorite business influencers in the space. And I just love his model where he just leads with value, tries to give really specific, applicable advice. And I find myself in a similar set of shoes where I have really specific and applicable advice for the real estate space on how people should scale their business. So in my podcast, they're just short 15 minutes, and I have a specific problem. I have a story revolving around that problem and how to solve it. And they're just really quick bite-sized things that you can put into play in your business immediately, and just go from there. That's really the entire idea and model behind it. The second thing that we have that we're really quadrupling our efforts down into, and it's been a ton of fun, is we have a Discord community as well. Everything's completely free, by the way. We're never going to sell courses or anything on that front. That's not our model. We make our money in the real estate space. So we have this Discord where we've got, I think we actually just broke 2,100 members today. And in there, we have daily accountability calls. We have sales training. We have all of our proprietary real estate contracts. We have, what else do we have in there? A bunch of other stuff. We've got people in there who are designated towards helping you close your leads. We've got marketing experts who can help you figure out what your plan should be to get your marketing going. That's all free. And the link to that is just, if you just type into your browser, discord.gg/closer, you can hop into that as well.
All right. If you missed that, we'll make sure we type that again. Can you say that one more time?
Yep. Discord.gg/closer.
Boom. We're putting that up on the screen. Liam, yeah, people are scanning the QR code. Awesome stuff. I think, again, with all the guests that we've had on, everybody can go into like a whole deep masterclass on this. So I hope people find Liam's podcast, listen to it. I love the bite-sized things with the podcast, but I love what you guys are doing. I know there's a lot of people in the real estate space that are using iSpeedToLead that are out there that are having great success. So
we just broke 15,000 people on the platform.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Congratulations, man.
Thank you, man.
It's great seeing that. And I see you at Wholesaling Live. I saw you at Hustle Harder. You guys are really pushing the platform out there, and it's really working. So we'll make sure we keep putting it up there. Liam, awesome stuff. I know there's probably so much we can get into. Let's get to this whole wrap-up point. Liam, final words, final thoughts, everything Liam Benson on the market, lead generation, lead conversion, you name it. Final words, final thoughts, Liam Benson.
The market right now is falling. It's tougher and tougher to find your deals. Right now, if you really want to create leverage for yourself in the marketplace, you have to double down in your sales process. You've got to be following up with your leads longer. You've got to be following up with your leads better, because I promise you, there's somebody like me out there who's following up with my leads consistently. There's somebody like me out there who, for me, we have an infinite automated drip for every single lead in our pipeline, no matter what. When they're ready to sell, we are going to hit them, guaranteed. If you're not doing that, you're going to be losing deals to people like me. The currency in the marketplace right now is trust. Build trust with your sellers, build this pipeline, and that's where you're going to find your very best deals. If you're just hoping to find these unicorns, these one-offs, you're going to find yourself in a tough spot. So consistently follow up, build trust, and you're going to weather the storm. And if you build this really consistent process, once the market takes a turn, you are going to be explosive.
Love it. You heard it right there from Liam. Liam, awesome stuff. Awesome. You have people that are dropping gems. Robert Rodriguez dropping gems. The explosions. Teresa even saying, I'm in the land space. I just joined a mastermind where all the ladies are in the housing space. I'll be sure to share your info with all the housing networks. Christine's loving it.
Thank you, Teresa.
Yeah, Teresa's got a great group, so make sure you guys will connect. So I love it, man. Thanks so much for being on. I think it's great that we got to talk about this, because everybody needs leads out there, and they're looking to really dive into more markets and get more leads. So love it, man. I can't wait to see you soon. I don't know where you're going to be next, but every time I see you, it's always a blast.
Dude, I'm excited too. I know you're going to be at a lot of events. I have no idea what our docket looks like, but I'm sure that we're going to catch up soon.
Oh yeah, we'll be linking up. Thanks again, man. Stay safe from the blizzard out there. Don't go anywhere.
Thank you. Will do. I'll try my best.
All right, man. I'll see you soon. All right, everybody. If you want to learn more about lead generation, you definitely need to follow Liam. Liam will talk about this stuff and really dive deep on it. We did a reel at Wholesaling Live, and when I asked Liam one question about Google PPC, he did a whole 5-minute session on Google PPC and talking about how you got to get Google reviews. If you missed that, check that out. We just did a reel on that, but he dives deep on this stuff. He gets really detailed with it, and that's going to be really key to your success in scaling your business. And Liam's company, they do all those leads on the housing. They're working on commercial and other types of leads, but you definitely want to check out iSpeedToLead and all the stuff they have on there. Awesome stuff. Liam is very knowledgeable, very smart with this kind of stuff. So check them out. And if you missed any of this episode, you definitely want to go back, check it out from the beginning, scan the QR code, because that's where you're going to find the Al Nicoletti Show on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play. It's on Facebook and all the micro that's dropping at Attorney Nicoletti. If you scan that, you'll get the link tree that has all the links right there. And you'll see everything that's out there. So again, another night on the show. Thank you all so much for joining. I love that you all are constantly engaging. That's what we want, the engagement, the questions, the comments, because that's going to bring out the best in the guests and the show, because we want to provide the most value to you out there. So again, we'll see you all next week, Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Hope you all have a great night. I'll see you then.